and get started. I've muted all you guys, so if you do want to ask a question, if you could hold till the end, that would be great. And also, I am recording this video for our virtual gym, so if you don't want to be asking a question in our virtual gym on video, then you can always send me an email. My name is Sandy Holterhaus. I'm the dietitian here at the Rec Center. I also teach yoga. I'm a health coach and also train people on the Power Plate, which is our vibration therapy machine. So those are kind of the things that I do here. But my passion is certainly, as a registered dietitian, being teaching people about healthy eating and helping them with medical issues if they have those, as far as helping them to get better. So today we're going to talk about intuitive eating. I have studied intuitive eating for a number of years, and I've also taught classes here at the Rec Center. So we'll get kind of right into it. So what is intuitive eating? It's a dynamic process centered around the whole process of eating. So if you think about like when you make your list to go get your groceries, and then when you go to the farmer's market or the grocery store and you pick out your food, and then coming home and just determining, where you're going to put it away, where you're going to store it, when you're going to use it, the food, and prepare it, who's going to help with preparing the food, processing the food, getting it to the table, and then kind of that slowing down process, if you can, when you're sitting at the table, maybe giving gratitude for the food, being thankful for the food. And then, of course, there's always that cleanup process afterwards. So it's just trying to be present and aware throughout all of that process centered around getting food to your table. We also know this by other names. We know it by mindful eating, weight neutral, the non-diet approach, health at every size, weight inclusive, and all foods fit approach. So those are all different names for intuitive eating. So the information I'm providing is based on a book that I studied from and took CEUs on. So it's Intuitive Eating. It was written by two dietitians back in the 90s, and their focus was really on eating disorders at that time. But what we found is that because of the availability of food, how easy it is to get, we don't have to work for it, that a lot of us are, eating, snacking, grazing all days, and we're also developing some bad habits around our food. So this book can apply to anyone, and I'd highly recommend, if you're interested in the topic, that you pick it up and read it. So the next topic here is why diets aren't working. So what they found is that 95% of people who go on a diet will regain that weight in the next 0 to 5 years. So it's hard to keep that weight off after you've lost it. And again, most people have that mentality that a diet is a short-term fix. So they're going to go on this diet for 3 months, lose the 12 pounds they want to lose, and then go back to their normal eating habits. We also know that if you restrict yourself, that can lead to overeating and binging. So actually can start to develop that cycle. And people who are dieting are 8 times more likely to develop an eating disorder. And at the end of this presentation, I'll have a couple just slides on eating disorders, since that's how this whole process kind of started. We also know that our body responds to restriction by slowing the metabolism. I have a client I'm working with right now. She's only eating about 1,100 calories a day. She can't lose weight. I'm looking at her and putting all her data in, and I think she can eat 1,400 to 1,500 calories a day based on where she's at. But she's still not losing weight. And I do feel it's partly because she slowed her metabolism down by doing lots of different diets over the years. So We also know that obesity and overweight can be linked to being abused in childhood. So they did a study and they found that children that were abused had an increased risk of obesity and overweight as adults. So that's always something to keep in mind if you have a friend or you're working with someone that is struggling with their weight. So intuitive eating was brought about again, like in the 90s, to be kind of this counter to the way that we are currently eating. So if you think about it, once you're about over 5 years old, they say we do pretty well up to about 5, and when we go into school, and then you start to have peer pressure and other things affecting your lifestyle. You are fairly reliant before that time on internal cues as to whether you're hungry or not. You'll push the food away or you'll accept the food. And they say over the course of the week, if a parent provides the young child with healthy food, that they'll get about the right amount of nutrients over the course of that week, balanced out. But again, once we start having the peer pressure, we decide because our friends won't eat peas that we don't want to eat peas anymore, that type of thing. We start relying and getting more dependent on external cues. And so that's the flip here of what we want to do, is trying to get back to those internal cues. So one of the goals of intuitive eating is making satisfaction that focal point. And we know if we undereat or we overeat, we're not going to feel satisfied. We're probably going to have, hunger pains or be overfull at that point. So again, trying to find that sweet spot where we feel satisfied with what we're eating. We want to eat for the sake of feeling good and feeling like we're eating abundantly instead of restricting ourselves. So that's another mind shift, getting away from labeling foods as good or bad. And then respecting your body, no matter what your size or shape is. So getting away from labeling people or labeling ourselves just because we're a different shape or size than somebody else. And then also selecting food without judgment. So again, getting away from those labels that tell us that this food, because it's has high calories, is bad for us, and this food, because it's low in calories, is good for us. So getting away from all of those labels. So why should you learn to eat intuitively? And I had another gal in my office just a couple weeks ago, and she said she's so confused about what to do anymore. She can't lose weight, very frustrated. And she said it's just all these rules coming down on her head. Like she's thinking about things constantly. So she's thinking about, should I be gluten-free? Should I go off dairy? Should I not eat after 6 p.m. in the evening? Should I eat a high protein diet? Should I eat a low carb diet? Or all these different things she's trying to balance out in her life. So we're kind of starting to look back at the basics with her. But as you can understand, the more and more different diets you do, the more different rules you start to pile on yourself. And we also have to think that if you learn to eat the right amount, what your body's asking for, that you can lead to a healthy weight. You can right size yourself. It increases our free choice and reduces that rebellion. A lot of rebellion starts around food. So if we can increase our own free choice and our free will of what we want to eat, then that helps to break that cycle. So the goal, again, is self-regulation and right sizing. And when we do that, when we eat the right amount for our body, that helps create trust and confidence in what we're eating and what we're doing. And then over time, this whole relationship, developing it to become an intuitive eater again, helps you develop a healthy relationship with food. So this is one of the tools that I use when I'm working with people as far as helping them to become intuitive eaters. And like I said, I did teach a class on this. It was before COVID, for several years before COVID. But this tool is very integral actually to the whole process of intuitive eating. So if you look at this hunger scale, what we want to do is try to stay between a 3 and a 7 all day long. So I just want you to close your eyes for a minute and just think about how hungry you are right at this moment. So think about, maybe you just ate and you're not hungry at all, or maybe you're still a little hungry because you didn't eat enough. Or maybe you haven't eaten since breakfast or since last night and you're starting to feel very hungry. So just take a moment and think about where you're at, and then open those eyes and take a look at the hunger scale here. So a nice place to be is at a 5, right? So you're satisfied, you're not hungry, you're not feeling too full. But as you can see, as we're move away from a meal time, we might start to begin to be more hungry. I get a 4. We might get pretty hungry. Or if we start to get into this 1 or 2 area, what we call kind of the hangry phase, we're much more likely to jump over here to a 9 or 10, because at that point, we don't care what we eat. We don't care what we select to eat. We just choose whatever's available to eat, and then we tend to overeat as well. So also looking at, if you're slightly full, when you're trying to determine, do I need to keep eating? You're starting to look like, oh, I'm slightly full. That's where you should start to feel as you're eating. And then maybe you get to that slightly uncomfortable stage. And then you start to tell yourself, okay, that's my last bite. That's all I need. Because if I eat 1 or 2 more bites, I'm going to be too full. So that's how you try to stay within that range. So I do like to put the caveat in there that sometimes people are on medication that makes them feel less hungry or more hungry. And at that point, sometimes it comes down to looking more at the portion sizes that you're putting on your plate and seeing how much you can eat comfortably, and not feel too full or not satisfied. So a great tool to use. These are all over the web if you're interested in making a copy. I think I might have put these sayings in here at the bottom, but there's a lot of different ones out there if you're looking for one. Great thing to stick on your table or on your fridge or wherever you eat, at your desk, that type of thing. So next I'm going to move into kind of how do you start to reclaim your intuitive eater. And there's 3 different things we're going to discuss here. So practicing mindfulness at the plate, reframing cognitive distortions, or those things we tell ourselves that kind of start to flow and overtake our lives. And then how do you calm that emotional eater? And then after that, I'll go into the 10 principles of intuitive eating. So practicing mindfulness at the plate. First of all, again, you want to observe before you start eating. How hungry are you? What kind of food are you hungry for? And I know we don't always have that availability. Like if we took our lunch to work, we can't necessarily go get different foods if we're not really hungry or find the food that we brought appealing. So there's always some give or take here when you're working on this. But you want to use that hunger scale. You want to listen to your body. And I know this all sounds really easy and basic, but it's not it can be very difficult once you get away from being an intuitive eater. And then when you're at the table or when you're eating, you want to be very aware about what you're eating. You want to taste every bite. So you're not maybe doing paired activities where you're sitting in front of the television or you're sitting at the computer and you're mindlessly eating, because then you can eat and eat and eat and feel like you haven't eaten anything. There's no satisfaction in that. So again, trying to taste every bite that you're eating. Eat slowly, chewing each bite 20 to 30 times. That actually sounds a little ridiculous to me because I wouldn't want to sit there and count how much I'm chewing each bite. But the point is you want to slow down that eating process, because it usually takes about 20 minutes before our stomach gets the signal that we're getting full. So you want to try to slow that down. And I know when I've done that sometimes I can eat half the amount of food that I put on my plate and still feel full. And of course, that's going to vary from day to day too, like with your activity and other things. So always honoring your hunger is very important. You want to be in the moment. So again, you're fully present when you eat, maybe expressing gratitude or being thankful for the food that you have could be a way of slowing down that process as well before you start eating, and just taking that moment to prepare to eat. And then also not placing any judgment on yourself. So being compassionate with yourself. If you want to have a brownie for dinner, then that should be something that you're able to do. So thinking about how do I fit all these foods into my life and get some of that satisfaction from, pleasureful foods, while also finding some balance in what I'm eating too. So overcoming cognitive distortions, this is a little more difficult, but this is those things that we tell ourselves kind of sometimes subconsciously that keep us stuck, and keep us from learning to become an intuitive eater. And this could be, I'm talking about eating here, but this can be in all different areas of your life. So relationships and other things as well. You may have cognitive, or probably have cognitive distortions there as well. But just some examples. So that all or nothing thinking, I can never eat chocolate again because I always overeat it. Where an intuitive eater starts to say, I can have chocolate sometimes, in moderation. I can have that in my diet. Overgeneralizing. I always gain back the weight, so why should I ever try to go on a diet? Where you might say instead, maybe I just haven't found the right technique or the right thing that works for me. So how do you get back to that? And then diminishing the positives. So maybe you're saying, I only lost 2 pounds this week, but maybe flipping that around, you're saying, wow, I lost 2 pounds this week, and I haven't lost weight like that for a while. So this is a good thing. So how do you flip all these cognitive distortions around? We also can make everything a catastrophe. So I gained a pound. So again, why should I even try? Where in fact you might have gained a pound because you drank more water that day, or you've been exercising and you've gained some muscle. So there could be reasons why you gained weight. Jumping to conclusions. I don't like sweet potatoes, and maybe you're saying that because you tried them one time and you didn't like them the way they were prepared, but maybe if you tried them a different way, that you might like them that way. And then also labeling. So labeling yourself, saying, I'm lazy, I'm not good enough, other people can do this, but I can't do this. And then just trying again to flip that around to making it a more positive statement for you. Hey, I'm going to try this a different way. I'm going to make this better for me. And that's how I'm going to go about this. So identifying those distortions and then trying to catch yourself when you're saying them, and then flipping those distortions around to more positive spin is important as you're going through this process. And sometimes journaling really helps with that. So we've done that in my classes. So emotional eating, this is actually of the 10 principles of intuitive eating. It's the 7th principle, and probably the most difficult to work on because you really have to come up with some strategies for this one. So a lot of times we emotional eat because we want to suppress something, we want to soothe or numb our negative emotions. So a lot of those types of feelings could be like stress, work stress, or anger, or maybe we're upset with a spouse. It could be fear, afraid of something that's coming up that we have to do. Boredom. I find I eat to distract myself sometimes. So how do you break all that down and determine what's causing you to want to eat? Sadness, of course, or loneliness, all those things, negative emotions that sometimes we don't want to feel. It's easy to reach for food to kind of numb those feelings. So those triggers again might be relationships, career or work stress, maybe just feeling fatigued when you get home from work every day and you're thinking, if I eat some more, I'll give me more energy, right? So that's not always the case. So financial pressures, health problems, all those things can lead to not listening to your intuitive eater and emotionally eating. So there are, again, some ways: mindful writing, finding some ways that help you reduce stress, maybe some meditation or yoga, finding a new hobby or activity that you really enjoy. I do have another book here I'll show you. It's by Julia Cameron, and it's called The Writing Diet. And what's interesting about this book is when she was teaching a college class, and they wanted her to teach this writing class, and she decided to have the students journal every day for the whole semester. And they were to write about their issues, their problems, their troubles, their relationships, anything that was on their mind. And she wanted them just to write 2 to 3 pages every morning, just let it go, let everything just flow out of them. And what she found by the end of the semester, most all of the students had dropped weight. So it was just, again, a different way of maybe dealing with those issues or problems that we're facing every day rather than turning to food. So they found that they were finding other solutions to those issues by just writing and being aware. So very interesting book to read as well. So I'm going to go through the 10 principles of intuitive eating. And again, the book has a chapter on every principle. So there's a lot of information, but I'm just going to go briefly through some of the highlights of each. So the first one is rejecting that diet mentality. So we have to realize we are biologically driven to eat when we're restricted, because that's how we preserve ourselves, preserve our life. So when you restrict yourself, it makes you rebellious. It makes you also hungrier, probably, because you're wanting to actually feed yourself and nourish yourself. We're also, again, driven to rebel when we're told what to do. And we all know rebellious kids and teenagers, but we tend to have that rebellion all of our lives, probably. And then also just believing that your inner wisdom or your internal cues can be the best guide for you. So really listening to your body and your mind and your heart and what it's telling you. And then I like to get people away from trying to go into every new diet and fad that's out there, and just, again, not be looking at those external cues or finding out what your friends are doing, but getting back to what your body's asking for, what your body wants you to do. So the second one is honoring your hunger. So honoring your hunger means that you feed yourself when you start to feel hungry, and that you stop when you start to feel full. So we're living in abundance. We're not trying to restrict ourselves. We're just trying to really listen to those body cues that say, hey, I'm hungry. It's time to eat. And hey, now I'm full. It's time to stop. And a lot of people come into my office and they'll say, I haven't felt hungry in years, and it's one of those things we kind of have gotten away from. I remember it being in school and feeling hungry before I could get to lunch, but now we tend to snack or graze or, eat whenever we want. So we may not feel that cue that we're actually starting to get hungry, that kind of emptiness in the stomach or that rumbling of the stomach, that type of thing. So it's a good feeling to have that feeling. And this is my quote here. I just think that one of the most profound ways to respect your body is to eat the right amount of food for your body. So you're also being, tuning into your hormones and everything else that's going on. And you're trying to just really nourish your body by giving it the right amount of food. So number 3 is making peace with food. So starting to remove those food labels. So saying that, oh, this cookie is bad, this apple is good. We just want to actually take away those labels completely if we can. And then stopping that love-hate relationship with food. Oh, I loved this food last night, but I hated it today because I overate on it. Now I don't feel good. So we're trying to get away from feeling that way. And then getting away from kind of halfway dieting, because a lot of times we say, oh, I'm not going to be on a diet. I'm going to be off my diet, I'm not doing it. But again, we have all those rules crushing us down, and we tend to still be following those rules, even if we tell ourselves we're not on a diet. So when we get rid of those rules, that's when we can really learn to trust our intuitive eater. So number 4 is challenging the food police. Start removing all those rules that are crushing you and trying to get angry with feeling the guilt. We shouldn't feel guilty about eating. We should, again, trying to eat the right amount, trying to give our body what it needs, either for nourishment or for joy, that type of thing. And then, again, not telling ourselves that you're good because you ate less calories or bad because you ate more calories, and getting rid of that negative self-talk. Number 5 is respecting that fullness. So one of the things that I notice a lot when I'm eating, that's the first cue, one of the first cues, is that I'll begin to set my fork down and maybe I'm talking to somebody else, that type of thing. Or I begin to be really distracted or thinking about my next thing I want to do. So those are a couple cues for me that I'm starting to get full. So really starting to pay attention at that point and starting to notice what your cues are. So that's very important for respecting that fullness. And then from kind of a nutrition perspective, combining fuels. So you want to have carbohydrate, you want to have protein, you want to have fat. And if you can, at every meal, you want to have different colors if you can. And even at snacks, you want to combine some of those fuels because then you'll have more staying power. Fat, protein take longer to digest, as well as fiber. And, sugar, if we're just eating sugar or carby foods all day, that goes into our bloodstream really fast, spikes our blood sugar, and then we don't have that staying power with those foods. We want to keep eating those types of foods all day long. And then asking yourself, is there still something missing? Maybe you get done with the meal and you're still not feeling satisfied. You're feeling like, I want to go back and get something else. So maybe you failed to have that feeling of satisfaction. So learning what is going to give that satisfaction to you. So number 6, discover that satisfaction factor, embrace the pleasure and satisfaction of the eating experience. And I just feel like a lot of times we're taught, especially I think women, or have been in the past, to eat like birds or that type of thing. And, honestly, we need to be eating for enjoyment, for pleasure, for nourishment, all of those reasons. And then, if you do find that satisfaction, that can help to calm that sense of feeling deprived or depriving yourself. Another thing you might notice is that if you're starting to feel hungry, like you're starting to have a little bit of hunger pain and emptiness, when you start to eat, you'll feel more satisfied. So those first several bites in particular are going to be more satisfying than if you start eating when you're already full or not hungry. And then one of the important things that you want to ask yourself is, what would really nourish me right now? What do I want to eat or need to eat at this point? Number 7, honor your feelings without using food. So again, this is that emotional eating portion. So overeating can certainly lead to guilt and shame, and that can lead to a vicious cycle. And then how do you learn to replace those feelings with some self-compassion? So discovering those underlying things that are upsetting or bothering to you. So maybe it's a sensory experience. Maybe you're looking for some pleasure or enjoyment from the food. So you're looking at that. You're looking for comfort. As I said, I eat for distraction sometimes. Sedation or even punishment. Overeating or undereating can be a form of punishing ourselves. And then number 8, respecting your body. So treating yourself with care, giving yourself self-care throughout the day, whether that's putting lotion on or scrubbing your skin down good in the shower, or just being good to yourself and feeling good about yourself. And then dressing in comfortable clothes, no matter what your size is. So a lot of times people will say, I'll buy new clothes when I lose the weight, that type of thing. But you should always just try to feel good about nourishing your body and having clothes that you enjoy or like on yourself. And then also respecting body diversity. So not just yourself, respecting your own body, but respecting the other people around you that you're with, and not body shaming anyone. You don't want that done to you, so we don't want to do that to others as well. Number 9 is exercising and feeling the difference. So just like choosing foods that you enjoy and that will nourish you, you also want to choose exercise that helps you to feel good. And again, a good variety, and everyone can figure kind of this out for themselves, like what they want to do and how hard they want to work out and all that type of thing. So just knowing that movement is really good for the body and can help you feel healthier, can help improve your mood, all those types of things. We do know some people with eating disorders in particular, or on that spectrum, might over exercise or excessively exercise. And you can tell those kind of people in your life because they tend to prioritize exercising over anything else in their lives, like even an injury, or if they're sick, they're still trying to work out, or if they're avoiding being around other people so that they can exercise, or they're very regimented when they go to the gym to exercise. And then number 10 principle is just honoring your health. So again, choosing the foods, the exercise, the lifestyle, the work, all those kinds of things that help you be healthy overall in your life, and using that same kind of process to kind of come to that, like really listening to your inner guide. And again, I said I had a couple slides here on eating disorders, so I just wanted to kind of go over those here at the end. We know some warning signs that people that have eating disorders, they have a preoccupation with weight, food, calories, carbohydrates, fat grams, dieting, that whole, all those things. And I've had clients that are weighing themselves like 3 times a day. And certainly those are people that I would refer on to a specialist, because that gets to be kind of obsessively trying to control that weight. Some people with eating disorders will refuse to eat certain foods, and that might progress to a whole category of food. So say they decide they don't want to eat dairy, and then, or drink milk, then they all of a sudden take out all dairy products because they think they're going to add too much fat to their diet, that type of thing. Some people will feel uncomfortable eating around others. They start to skip meals, and you might see them eating, but it's very, very small portions. And then they withdraw from friends and their usual activities. They have extreme concern about their body size and shape. They're frequently checking the mirror for their perceived flaws in appearance. And then you might start to notice extreme mood swings. So those things. So my last slide here is on eating disorder stats, and this is from the Anorexia Nervosa and Disordered Eating website. So I did list here over on the side a lot of the different types of eating disorders. Some of these are recognized as eating disorders. Some of them are categorized as kind of other eating disorders that are not kind of yet recognized or noted as eating disorders. But we have anorexia. We know that's the one where people really reduce the amount of food that they're eating. It can be very life-threatening. So people, first notice a lot of weight loss, all the symptoms, withdrawal from being around other people, and then it can lead to being hospitalized, or even heart issues, heart problems. And that would be, unfortunately, the number one eating disorder that can lead to death. So very serious eating disorder. Bulimia, that's when you binge and purge. And bulimia, most people are probably at a normal weight or close to a normal weight if they have bulimia. So it's harder to recognize the people that have bulimia. But again, serious eating disorder, but not as life-threatening. They tend to actually lose a lot of nutrients because they are purging, and then the food that they're eating or taking in tends to be not so healthy food. So very concerning. There's binge eating, which is binging without purging. And those people tend to lose some, or I'm sorry, gain some weight. And then there's purging disorder. That's purging without binging. Those people will tend to lose weight, and they're losing a lot of nutrients, of course, when they're purging. Pica is a disorder where people are eating foods, or I shouldn't say foods, things that aren't food. So they might start eating dirt, or they might start eating clay. And it's also, I think, considered a mental disorder as well. Rumination, this is kind of the one of the worst ones, but I actually had a client that did this, and it's actually purging your food and then re-eating it. So very disturbing. There's avoidant restrictive behavior. This happens generally in small children. You start to recognize this, where they avoid certain foods, or they just don't like eating. It could be a lot of different things. It could be texture. It could be something physical as well. So that always needs to be ruled out. But it could be smell. It could be a lot of different things. But then they tend to be underweight and not as healthy. And I know one child, I have a friend with a child that will only eat 6 foods. He's now in high school, and he's still only eating about 6 foods. And so again, it can be very just serious because they're not getting the nutrients they need. So they do need some supplementation. There's also night eating syndrome. That's exactly like it sounds. You wake up in the middle of the night, you're hungry. I should say you don't always wake up. Some people say they do this in their sleep. So they wake up in the morning and realize that they've got bags of food and things open in the kitchen. But so you might be aware, you may not be aware, but you're eating and taking in a lot of calories overnight. And then there's orthorexia. Orthorexia would be where you're all about only eating healthy foods. And the reason that you do that, so you're restricting yourself, is to make you feel like you're superior to other people. So that would be orthorexia. And let me just go through these quickly. Here's some of these statistics. At least 30 million people, all ages and genders, suffer from an eating disorder in the US. So I think we're around 350 million for our population, so maybe about 8 to 9% of our population. Every 62 minutes, at least one person dies as a direct result from an eating disorder. So again, a serious problem. Eating disorders do have the highest mortality rate of any mental illness. And again, anorexia is that most serious one. 13% of women over age 50 engage in eating disorder behaviors. So it's not just young people or young women, and it's also males as well. 16% of transgender college students reported having an eating disorder. And then it's also prevalent in our active duty military personnel. So when they enter, about 5.5% of women and 4% of men had an eating disorder. And within a few years of service, the women's rate went up by 3.3% more, and the men's rate went up by 2.6% more. Again, it's that very regimented kind of thinking process or attitude that kind of might keep you stuck there. Also, eating disorders affect all races and ethnic groups. and a lot of things play roles and factors here. So genetics, environment, personality traits, they can all put you at risk for an eating disorder. Just one quick slide on my services. So if you're interested in seeing me, I do individual counseling. For members, that's $20 for 45 minutes. For non-members, $40 if they're eligible here to see me at the Rec Center. I'd also do the Power Plate personal training. I put that machine up here. We have one of these at the Rec Center. It's whole body vibration. I do a lot of training, in particular with women who are trying to strengthen bones. So they might have bone density issues, but also for balance, circulation, core strength, that muscle relaxation and recovery. So our elite athletes can use it as well. And then it also helps improve flexibility. So I've got some of the pricing there. If you want to do an individual session and just learn how to use it, that's $28. But depending on how many, if you buy a series of or a package, then the price goes down. I also teach yoga on Thursday mornings, 9:20 to 10:20, and that is free to our members. So if anyone ever wants to join me there, if you're not a member, you can always pay a guest fee and come in for the day and do that class. And I think that's all I have. Here's a picture of that book again, if you guys can see that. And with that, does anyone have any questions? You'll have to unmute yourself if you want to ask.
Sandy, I couldn't see any of the slides.
You couldn't?
No, I only saw your face the whole time.
What? Did that happen to anyone else? So that was you, Sue?
Yeah, I guess.
No, I can see the whole slide process.
Oh no, gosh. Well, Sue, I'm disappointed for you.
I don't know. Maybe I hit a button that changed it wrong.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was hoping. Well, I wish you spoke up sooner. We could have maybe tried to do something, but
well, I was learning anyway.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Well, certainly you can stop by and I could show you or kind of go through the slides with you if you'd like to do that, Sue.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Anyone else have any questions? Does it sound like an interesting thing to do or try?
Some of the things I think I already do.
Good.
Like I try to listen to my body, and a lot of times I'm not hungry, and then okay, I guess I'm hungry now, and try to have something nutritious.
Good. And and that's one of the big things is a lot of people just don't allow themselves to get to that place where they're starting to feel hungry. And it is good to get to that place, because then, like I said, when you start to eat, it feels like the food tastes better, you know. And one of the interesting things they say too with intuitive eating is usually the first 3 bites of your food taste the best, you know, so you might pay attention to that and just see if that plays true for you.
Yeah, so I don't set myself to a strict schedule of when breakfast or lunch will be. Sometimes I don't till 10 and then have something light about 1 o'clock or so, and then dinner around 6.
Perfect. And that's really what you should be doing with intuitive eating. A lot of people, you know, they stress having that breakfast in the morning. I've gotten away from doing that because I just feel like if you're not hungry in the morning right away, then why should you eat? You know, unless you have a event or something that you need a lot of energy for, then that would be maybe a reason to choose to eat at that time. But yeah, if you're not hungry or you're not hungry later in the evening, then I think that's one of the worst things you can do is feed yourself when you're not hungry. So,
right.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
I think so. This was really interesting for me.
Good.
Because being a lifetime dieter, I told you when I met with you that I didn't want to diet anymore. And I really like it. I log all my food and everything on a regular basis, but maybe I will also keep a journal. That might be a neat thing.
Perfect. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I do have some books here in my office. If you did want to meet with me again or stop by, I could provide a few books. I made these books several years ago, and for some reason, I don't have them anymore on my computer. So they got lost somewhere, but I have a few copies left. And it's basically what you're doing is you're marking down how hungry you are when you start eating. So based on that hunger scale, and then you're going to write down the foods you eat, and then you're going to mark down how full you are when you stop eating. So it's to train you to start and eat between the 3 and the 7 on that scale. So that's, I don't have people mark down amounts or anything else, but just kind of a reminder of what they ate, what they drank, and then how full they were or how satisfied they were afterwards. So
Okay. All right. Thank you.
you're welcome. Anyone else have comments?
Well, thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thanks. And if anyone else has a question, they can ask me at the end, or you can certainly email me. Let me see if I can get my email back up here. Sandra.holterhaus@collins.com. So if you do have a question you don't want to ask in the group, you can certainly email me.
All right. See you
All
for